Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Emmy Petite, and here I talk about all things lifestyle, fashion, beauty, social media, and entrepreneurship, and everything in between. Today I'm going to be doing a influencing Q&A where you guys get to ask all your questions about influencing, influencer marketing, what it's like for me as a full-time influencer and entrepreneur. So I'm going to dive right into those questions. If you are not already, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. That's where I pulled these questions from. So definitely give me a follow on Instagram if you are, wanting to participate in further or future Q&As. That's where I pulled these questions from. So make sure you're following me there. And we're gonna dive right into this influencing Q&A. Be sure to subscribe. Okay, all right. So my friends over on Instagram asked some questions about influencing. You guys asked amazing questions. I haven't seen all of them yet, but I saw most of them. So we're gonna dive right into it. I'm not gonna do this in any particular order. I'm just going to read them off. Okay. First question is, how do I start with the little emojis of like, Okay, so how do you start influencing? To be quite honest with you, there's no right or wrong way, but I can kind of tell you my experience and what I see works for a lot of other people. The reality is, if you are, an influencer, you've most likely been kind of like sharing your life and certain things that you like or on some sort of social media platform. So you need to be on social media. So if you're not active on social media, get active on social media, because in order to be an influencer that brands want to collaborate with, you kind of need a platform where they can utilize your audience and leverage your audience. So when you think about it, like, we have to kind of get to the foundation of what an influencer is. An influencer is someone who is able to, allow people to get an inside look at a certain thing and either evoke an emotion or an action. So whether that be making people buy something or maybe making people like something or follow something, you are someone whose voice is impactful and is able to produce some sort of result. So if you want to start as an influencer, think about the things that you're passionate about and start sharing about them. Start sharing about them because you need to build a community. So the reality is, I think a lot of times people are like wanting to be an influencer and automatically jump to the brands. But in reality, you need a community, because why would a brand want to partner with you if you don't have an audience or a very, set identified group of people that you can communicate something specific to that brand technically cannot, right? So we've got to be on social media, build up a community of people that trust us and value our opinions on a particular topic. So if you're a beauty influencer, or maybe you're a fashion influencer, or maybe you're a tech influencer, there's something that you really, really speak to that people trust you and they like to listen to you about. Now, a lot of people now kind of have self-identified as lifestyle influencers, and that just means like you live your life and you share all the things that are kind of happening. But even as a lifestyle content creator or lifestyle influencer, there might be some specific things that you really highlight on. So an example of this is I am a lifestyle influencer. However, I'm definitely a very specified influencer in the fashion niche. I also do more specifically curvy fashion. That's really where I try to highlight and pinpoint certain things. I'm also a faith influencer. I share a lot about my faith. I'm an entrepreneurship influencer. I'm a social media influencer, teaching social media and different tech tools. So there's all these various like little pockets within lifestyle that I lean into, as well as like being like a wine influencer. So when we say lifestyle, that can incorporate a lot of different things, but really figuring out like what is the specific thing that people come to me for. So for me, I think I just started sharing more about like fashion and like hair and stuff like that when I got online, because those were the things that people asked me about in real life. Like in real life, everyone would always ask me like, oh, where'd you get this? Like, where'd you get that? And so now on social media, I can do pretty much the same thing. So the first thing I would say to do is start sharing the things that you're passionate about, start sharing the brands that you're using, the brands that are already in your home, start tagging them when you show like your day-to-day routine, tag what you like to eat, different things of that nature. Be someone who is providing value to your audience in a very specific space. So if it's giving them tips on how to shop for clothes and telling them, where has cute clothes, start there. Start tagging those brands in order for people to view you as a resource and as an influencer that's really like helping them either make decisions or, opening their eyes to make a decision, because sometimes that's what an influencer does. It's like you didn't know you needed something until like your favorite influencer told you needed something. So in that regard, that's like the very, very basic, how do I start? When we dive in a little bit deeper, what I would typically recommend to someone who's starting out is to start off by, really, telling your story, building a community, tagging the brands that you're using, and also working on influencer platforms. So influencer platforms are pretty much like a job site for influencers. And no matter what size you are, there's different platforms where you can actually find work that brands are putting out there for someone like yourself who wants to get into influencing, so that you can partner with them and help them. So when you're just starting out, you may not, get payment initially. It's just the nature of the industry, nature of the game, unless you're like an amazing content creator. But when you're just starting out, there are some platforms that you may want to sign up for. And basically what they'll do is they'll provide you with free products for you to either create a review, create social media posts, in order to kind of like get the word out there about a product, but without paying you. They'll give it in exchange. So it's like almost like a gifting opportunity. So my very, very first like influencer campaign was through Influencer. And Influencer provides free products of like newly launched beauty products, like great brands, like high-end household brands. And my very first campaign was with Fresh Beauty. I was able to create some content around a new mask. It was like a rosé mask that they had. And this is probably like 2018 or through 2019, because that was like when I really actually like dove into being a social media influencer. And so you create that content, and what that does, it allows for you to put that work as a part of your portfolio. So when you're applying for a regular job, you need a resume and a portfolio. When you are applying for an influencer job, you need a media kit. So a media kit is basically like your resume. It pretty much just details what your brand is about, what different brands you've worked with. It might even highlight some of the content that you've produced in the past. And this allows for you to kind of showcase to brands the work that you're able to do, and partner with them in that way. So you can kind of like prove to them, this is the quality of work that I have. These are the brands that I've partnered with in the past. And so it kind of qualifies you as a resume, would qualify you for a job. So with that being said, you can sign up for some of these platforms that are really, really helpful. If you would like a list of platforms that are going to be beneficial for you, click the link in my description. I have a list of platforms that I'll send out to you via email. 70 or 80 platforms. Now, you don't need to sign up for all the platforms all at once unless you have the capacity to do so. But what I would say is, sign up for as many as you can, and it'll be helpful to you to be able to kind of like start, applying for different brand deals and different jobs. Now, if you're just starting out, my recommendation for you would be to kick it off with Influencer and Octoly. Influencer, Octoly, and Heartbeat. So Influencer and Octoly are not paid campaigns, but like I mentioned to you, I was able to get my first like brand collaboration through Influencer, and I was able to then put that brand collaboration on my media kit. So you want to work with brands, these household names, and put them on your media kit so that you actually become more attractive to other brands when you reach out to them and pitch them for work, or when they reach out to you and ask you for your media kit to see what type of work you've been producing already. So those two are great because you're going to get free products and you're going to be able to create content around them and then leverage those names on your media kit. Heartbeat is also great because you can get paid on that platform. It's not typically very much money. Sometimes it's like $20-$25, but you are working with brands like, Dunkin' Donuts, Target, different brands that are, nice household names, but you're not getting paid as much, but you're getting a little something for your work. So those are three that, like, when you're just starting out, definitely have those, sign up for those. I'm working on a guide for different platforms for different size creators and different types of creators. So stay tuned, that's coming soon. But as of right now, I'll just give you guys access to this list because, listen, it does no harm. Sign up for the platforms and start, trying to apply for these different jobs. And what I would say is starting out with platform work is really, really helpful as opposed to just jumping into pitching brands, because a lot of times you don't even know how to like fully compile a campaign, organize a campaign so that a brand is like, happy with the work that you produce, because there's a lot that goes into just like organizing your different deliverables, making sure that you're clearly reading the brief, making sure that you're submitting your drafts on time, all of that stuff. And when you do that through the platform, it's almost like a guided step. Like they kind of like guide you through the process, as opposed to if you were to just do it on your own. And, sometimes if you do that and like you don't really comply with everything the brand tells you to do, you may not get hired again if they're not happy with the work. So it's really great to start with platforms, because while you're getting paid less money, you're learning the ropes and you're learning how you want to like systematically approach campaigns. And then as you get, deeper into it, you can start pitching brands and you'll feel really confident as far as managing a brief, managing all the different files that you need to send to a campaign rep. So I would say start out with platforms, and then as you grow and as you get more comfortable, start pitching, because you cannot wait for people to notice you. A lot of times brands don't even know you exist, and so you kind of have to like get in their face and say, oh, hey, I'm Emmy. I like to create content based on curvy fashion, whatever the case may be. Would love to collaborate with your brand. I love your brand for XYZ reason. So that would be like, once you're ready to start pitching. And typically you can, in terms of size, like how many followers you need, you can start pitching whenever, but it's really more of like being confident in the fact that you can deliver a campaign from beginning to end. So that's what I would say to start. Next question. That was a long answer. Next question. When and how to reach out to brands you want to work with. Okay. When and how. When, really, whenever you want, whenever you feel like you have a confident value proposition. So when you're like, listen, I am a influencer in the curly hair niche, so I'm going to start reaching out to brands and letting them know that I want to promote their curly hair products. So it's really up to you. It's about your confidence level. There's not really a number. Now, is it safe to say that brands like to work with bigger influencers? Yeah, some brands, but some brands actually like to work with micro and nano influencers because they actually see more bang for their buck that way. So you really just got to shoot your shot. Typically, they would say like once you have 1,000 followers, you're in a good place to start pitching. Is it easy to land every brand deal? No, it's never easy, but you can start pitching. You may even be able to land brand campaigns even under 1,000 followers, depending on how you're able to leverage your value. So that question is a little bit subjective, but I would say once you feel like you have confidently defined who you are, what your value is, your voice and your voice in your community, you can start pitching brands. And make sure that these are brands that are aligned with your brand, aligned with your mission, aligned with your voice, because that's when it really connects. Because a brand partnership is a partnership. So each side, this should be mutually beneficial for you and the brand that you're working with. You said when and how. So how to reach out to brands. So you obviously can go the platform route where you're already on platforms and brands have these jobs listed and you can apply for them. Or you can find brand contacts via LinkedIn, via Google, email them and send them a pitch directly. And if you guys would like me to like create a YouTube video about like pitching, just comment below, pitch please, and I will definitely do that for you guys. Okay. Do I need to hit a certain number of followers before reaching out to brands? So kind of like what I just mentioned there. There's not a magic number. Typically they say like once you're at 1,000 followers, you're in a better place to be able to pitch. But there are people who have 300, 500 followers getting paid deals because they have a very specific niche. So they're able to provide a very specific value. So if you have defined that and you create really amazing content, you could start pitching really whenever. There's not really a guideline as far as when you should pitch. Now, the reality is a lot of brands want to see anywhere between like 5,000, 10,000. They're like a little bit happier there, but there's plenty of brands working with nano influencers and actually prioritizing nano influencers who are under 10K more than micro influencers, because they are seeing such a high. You guys, as nano influencers, there's so much, like, the engagement is just through the roof. It's insane. And so there's so much to leverage at that point, because you can really have such a direct connection to your community, and you can really leverage that to a brand and let them know, like, me and my community, we're tight, we're like this. So when I tell them about things, they truly listen. So I wouldn't say there is a certain amount of followers that you would need. It's more of a certain level of value that you need to have and know how to position it. Okay, the next question is, do brands care more about following or engagement? So this one's another tricky one. It just depends on the brand. It depends on what the campaign is. So in actuality, brands really, of course, they want to see followings, but they want to see engaged followings. So they want you to have that high number of followings, but also a connection to your community. So depending on what their goals are, a lot of times if a campaign is more of like they want to convert and they want to get sales, they might actually reach out to a lot of smaller influencers just because they know that connection is there, but it really depends on their philosophy and their campaign goals. If they're if they're looking for brand awareness, they might just look for a bunch of smaller influencers to get the word out, because then they can, tap into a bunch of different influencers in a bunch of different communities. Whereas maybe if they're looking for sales and conversions, they might tap into some macro, larger influencers. So it just depends on the brand's needs and their philosophy. But in all actuality, they're looking for following and engagement. Now, the great thing is that a brand may see like, oh, I will work with this nano because they have 20% engagement, as opposed to working with this micro who only has 3 or 4% engagement, because you know what, they're probably going to pay that nano less, but still get probably about the same reach in actuality. So it really just depends. Ooh, I love this one. What are some account must-haves for someone who wants to become an influencer? This is a really great question. So I always start with the bio. Your Instagram bio needs to be very, very clear. It needs to be clear what kind of content that you create. So are you a fashion, lifestyle, entrepreneurship content creator, influencer, or are you just a fitness influencer? Like, tell us what you do. Like, what does your page provide value to? So if you can kind of like make it very clear what you're serving, what, community serving, what kind of content people can expect from you in your bio, that's really, really important. Also in your bio, your email. Your email should be listed clearly in your bio, because when brands are looking for influencers, and for those of you guys who don't know, I worked on the brand side before, but when brands are looking for influencers, they're on a computer and they're looking at your Instagram on a computer. And if you just have the email button, that's only accessible on a mobile device. So if a brand is looking at you on a computer and your email is not clearly listed in your bio, you may have the email button, but they're not going to be able to see your email. So they would have to get on a mobile device to then get your email to contact you to say that they want to collaborate with you. To be quite honest, brands move really fast. And so they would probably just like move on and find someone else. Because you have to really make it easy for people to find you and pay you. So make it really easy. Make sure that your email is listed clearly in the bio. Other than that, I would say a really good handle that is just like very, easy to remember, very clean, and also consistent across platforms. You don't want to tell a brand, I am, cocoa and plum on this platform, but then I'm cocoa and strawberries on this one, and then I'm cocoa and, pineapples on the next one. Like, girl, get it together, be consistent, concise across all platforms. Other things that your account needs to have: great great content, quality content. You need storytelling as well. You should be creating quality content that is just like visually appealing, that when a brand comes and sees your content, they're just like, whoa, we want to work with this person. Also, captions that are really just capturing, that tell your story, that tell your philosophies, that really like get an inside view as to who you are. That's going to be really important as well. I think another thing accounts that want to be influencers should have is utilizing hashtags that are very location, niche specific, because a lot of times brands are looking through those hashtags to find people. So if you want to start working with brands, definitely pay attention to those hashtags that you're using. Make sure that you're kind of like, you know, differentiating the niche that you serve, the location that you're in. So I'm a blogger in Miami. So Miami blogger is one of the hashtags that I do not post without. Miami influencer, Miami content creator, whatever the case may be, but really just being specific. Fashion blogger, curvy fashion blogger, because if a brand is looking for a curvy fashion blogger, then, you know, hopefully they'll come across my content in that hashtag. So those are just a few things that I would say like you need that to be a part of your account in order for you to just like really be able to lean into some brand partnerships. Okay, so this question is a little bit more personal. So I'm interested in becoming a full-time influencer. How did you get started? Okay, I kind of talked about this a little bit before, but in real life, people would ask me all the time, like, oh, where's this from? Like, where's your clothes? Like, where's your top from? Where's your shoes from? Whatever the case may be. And so I was on the internet, and to be honest with you guys, like I had started off blogging on the internet. I really wasn't, I can't say that I was into Instagram. I was just on there like a regular person, like, you know, not really like trying to get followers. My page was private for a long time, but I was blogging, not with the hopes of making money. I didn't even know that. I don't think at that time I knew you could make money blogging. I just like to write. So it wasn't until I would say I started taking my Instagram more seriously in grad school. So I would say 2017 was when I was like, oh, let me start taking my Instagram more seriously. Because at that point, okay, let me just be honest. Once I took my profile off private, I started to grow just like organically, like not really trying. I just started to grow. And then probably when I was in grad school, I probably had at that time like 2,000 or 3,000 followers. So in like 2016, hold on. 2017, I probably had about 2,000 or 3,000 followers. And then what happened for me was I went to grad school for journalism. And as I was in my journalism program, I was traveling a lot, creating different documentaries like all across the globe. And as I was traveling, I was sharing my experience as a, you know, grad student. I was sharing my experience with clothing, all these things. And just like really just sharing a little bit more. And my journey has been really interesting. I think I'll just make a separate video about my influencing journey, but just to be like very honest with you guys, like I was just sharing my life, sharing my experiences. I ended up building this community. I had a weekly IG live show. Like I was just kind of like I like to talk and communicate with people. So I was just kind of like being myself. And then my following grew. It wasn't until after grad school, probably like months and months and months later, that I was like thinking again about like being an influencer. And then I would say I really started taking it seriously in 2019. That was when I started taking it seriously, you know, started signing up for platforms like Influencer, started doing different little campaigns. And that's when I kind of took it a little bit more seriously. So that was kind of my journey. This is a really great question. What's a realistic time frame to start making money? This is really going to depend on who you are, like where you're at. This is so dependent, but I will be honest. There's people who have, you know, been influencing for years and they haven't been able to make consistent money. It's just a tough thing to say, oh, you'll be able to do it in a year. What I will say is that when you really lean into this and learn the industry, you're at a better advantage, right? You're at a better advantage. Like I can say that when I really started to like study the industry, study like the different ways of pricing myself, because I mean, I could have been someone who was still taking like free products at this point if I wasn't someone who was like very up to speed. I worked in marketing, and so I know what the value is of an influencer, because once you understand the business, you could probably finesse your way into making money sooner. And the reality is, if you start working on platforms, you can make money almost immediately if you have a decent following size. So anywhere between 1,000, like 1,000 and up, on any, there's plenty of platforms that will pay you for your work, and even some platforms that will pay you under 1,000. So it just depends on how much money are you looking to make in reality, and how much time are you willing to like really put into creating quality content, pitching brands, because as you're starting out, it's going to take a little bit more energy, right? Because you don't have any brand relationships yet. You don't have any PR relationships. So you're going to have to take some time to really introduce yourself to brands, introduce yourself to PR agencies, and you can start making money. So I wouldn't put a time frame. Okay, so the next question is, what do you consider the most important things to have in your starter kit? So in your starter kit, definitely your media kit. You need a media kit, which, like I said before, it's like a resume. A media kit is going to show all the previous work that you've done, the different niches that you serve. It might have a little bio about you, what you like to discuss, what you typically share with your audience on a weekly basis, whatever the case may be. It's just going to give a little bit more insight as to what you do as an influencer, who you serve, your analytics. It's going to share a little bit more about, how you may be able to be a resource to them. So the different services that you provide. Maybe you do Instagram posts, YouTube videos, IG Live, Facebook Live, whatever the case may be, the different services that you're able to provide, and also previous work that you've done in the previous brands that you've worked with. That is 100% like you need a media kit. So you've got to create a media kit. I would say that's probably the main thing that I would say is like, make sure you have a media kit, make sure you have a very clear and like concise brand online, so that when brands, either when you're pitching them or when they find you, they know exactly who you serve, and they know whether you're going to fit into their campaigns or not. Like if everything's all over the place, it's going to be hard for them to figure out how you fit into their brand. So I would just mainly say in your starter kit, definitely media kit, definitely platforms. You need to be signed up for these influencer platforms in order to build up your resume, to build up that media kit, so that you can then start pitching brands and get paid, even more money. Because when you work directly with the brand, you're able to get paid a bit more. Okay, so the next question is, what was the pivotal moment that made you realize you wanted to do it full time? As soon as I knew people were doing this full time, I was kind of like, well, I'm already doing this online. Like, why am I not getting paid for this? I think I didn't expect to go full time this soon. And to be honest with you guys, I'm not in a place where I'm not like opposed to getting a job. There was 2 dream jobs that I really, really wanted before I ever went full-time entrepreneur, but COVID happened, so things kind of switched up. So it's still up in the air for me whether like I'll go back to work and then come back to being an influencer. I literally thought like, okay, a couple of years before I have kids, I'm going to be like at home blogging and doing all this stuff. So it happened a little bit differently, which I'm really thankful for. I feel like having the liberty to be able to like be home with COVID and all this stuff and, just focus on my businesses has really just been a blessing. But I think the moment that was like truly pivotal for me was, like when I kind of started to like think about it, was like, wait a minute, I just made my salary. Like, what am I doing? So when I started making more money and I wasn't having that much time to focus on influencing, I was kind of in my mind like, if I didn't have a 9-to-5, if I didn't have all these other things, what could this look like for me? I think that was like the moment for me where it clicked, and I was like, yo, if I was pitching more, if I was doing this and that, because at that point I really wasn't pitching. And so I was like, man, I wonder what that will look like if I'm like home and just like able to focus on this. So that was the pivotal moment for me, was to kind of just like open up more opportunities for myself. So that was my thought process.